guys, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the Dear Baddest Bee podcast with me, your host, Nkem. How are you all doing today? It's currently a Wednesday. It's Wednesday, 26th of July, and I cannot lie to you. It has been one massively active day. I have been non-stop since about 8:30 this morning till now, and it's currently 6 o'clock. And we've got the whole hour and a half recording slot here. So I've been a busy bee. This morning was Juan's last day of staying with me. My mum came back from Italy late last night, may I add, at like 2 a.m. God. Packed his lunch, was up, played a game of Mario Kart because I love it so much and it makes me reminisce. It makes me very nostalgic to when we had the Wii. And then since then, I had one mental health meeting this morning, sort of research. Ran out of my house. Elizabeth line was bloody delayed. God, I hate it. How many millions were invested in that line and it's still delayed? Made it to my laser hair appointment. I get my upper lip done. Juan says my moustache is bigger than his. Piss take, I know. And then had to run for my orthodontic appointment as well. That was all the way in Clapham Junction / Clapham Battersea Rise. And then run here. Spent an hour and a half on the fucking overground or underground even. Overground train stopped working. It was supposed to drop me right to Gospel Oak. Cancelled because a train in front of us broke down, and now here I am after 2 more changes because I got on the wrong train. So your girl is hungry, your girl is tired, and she is ready to dive deep today because I think it's going to be a deep one. I'm still feeling nervous and figuring out who I am on the camera, on the mic, and what my voice sounds like. How raw and honest. I say how raw and honest, but as raw as it needs to be. Whoop whoop, mini victory of the week. I have finally opened a social media account for Dear Baddest Bee podcast, and it felt really nerve-wracking because I've been generating, of course, the last few episodes, I've been generating content. I was like, okay, now I have to create teaser reels. And I was feeling nervous about that. I was like, do I create a YouTube? I'm still undecided because I don't know whether to just have a separate social media account for the Dear Baddest Bee podcast on Instagram and TikTok when I eventually get to it. But I don't know whether to extend that to YouTube already or just have it on my account. The episodes that drop weekly. So we're still undecided on that. I still need to create a website, and I think that's the one I'm bricking most because your girl is not a graphic designer by any means. By any means. I struggle on Canva. Canva has templates. How does one struggle on Canva? So those are the things I'm struggling with, that I've been struggling with this last week. The episodes haven't dropped yet. And I'm planning on dropping them August 2nd. I mean, that's what I've been telling my friends anyway. When I've posted teasers of like, that's been my stories, that's been nerve-wracking. I posted a work story today where I was working in a cafe and one of my friends was quick on the mark, my lord. She was like, is this related to the drop on August 2nd? And I was like, girl, bye. You're not going to get it out of me just yet. My lips are locked and sealed. None of you will get this out of me. The only person at this time that kind of knows when it's going to, not even when it's going to drop, that I'm recording episodes consistently is Penelope. And that's because she's got an episode that you will have seen by now. I hope you enjoyed that, by the way. It was really good to have my sibling on. And if there's anything you wanted to know, again, feel free to drop an email and feel free to drop a message on the social media account because that's open now. But yes, Penny's episode is recorded and Juan's is in the works. The date is booked. He just doesn't know what's going to happen and when, because since I've been recording in Creator's House, and of course in the last one it was Haven Talk Studios, but in Creator's House, Juan doesn't know that I've been coming here. He doesn't know that it's free to work. So I think he's going to be genuinely surprised that I've actually had a recording studio to be working out of, because I think he just thinks I ordered a set of mics on Amazon and that's what I've been using. Little do you know, baby, like we're actually going to be sat in a studio working, tripods, cameras, setups, and all the good stuff there. Today's episode is named Negative Self-Talk and Being Fat. I just want to start off by saying I don't want to hear any of the negative shit that people who are my size and plus have to say. I mean that in the most respectful way, because we each have our own goals of what we want in life. Mine is to not forever be overweight and unhealthy and at more risk of cardiovascular health. There's a whole video that I did on TikTok about it from my perspective as a nurse, or being obese, and that as far as I'm concerned, I don't tolerate any bullying or fat phobia, but what I want out of my life and not being forever fat, does not make me fat phobic, and it's the only goals that I set myself. If you're happy being however you look, whether it be skinny, whether it be fat, whether it be muscular, not muscular, thin, whatever it is, purple, green, penguin, blue, I don't care. You do you. But for me and my personal goals, this is how I feel. If it resonates with you, fabulous. Ask me questions. Let's have a conversation about it. If it doesn't resonate with you, please, I beg, feel free to skip, because this is my space. And if you don't like it here, that's absolutely fine. But this is my space. That being said, I've always struggled with my weight. There are psychological reasons for that. Apparently, you do the research, can be related to the relationships you have with your parents, binge eating, diet culture. There are so many things that can affect how much you weigh, sorry. From a health perspective, I would argue, no, I'm not healthy. I carry a lot of excess fat, and that has risks on my heart health, that has risks on my bones, on diabetes, and diabetes, well, type 2 anyway, runs in my family. So there's always the risk of that. How it contributes to my sleep, the fact that I snore and technically means that I have sleep apnea. I don't breathe properly during the night, all that good stuff there. Being obese is not healthy. That's it. That's the bottom line. And I've accepted that. I know why I weigh the way I weigh. And all I can say is that I am making strides to not be this way anymore. What I acknowledge is that it's a lifestyle change. So no, it's not going to happen overnight. No, I am not bulimic. No, I am not going for super skinny. I just want to be healthy. I want to be strong. Of course, there are aesthetics tied to that. I want to look good in the clothes that I wear. I don't always feel like that. That being said, I'm thickums. I'm a thick babes. I want to keep my ass. I don't have titties to begin with, but I want to keep that as much as I can. And I would say that even though I've never been skinny, I weighed 88 kilos when I was 12 years old. That's relevant because of what's in here and what I discovered recently, but we'll get into that in a second. My idea of body and health and happiness, there's one moment in time that I recall, and I've told some of my friends about it, because that was my first idea of body image. We were in Italy, and in Europe mostly, you know, modesty is not a massive thing unless you're extremely religious. I say that to say, if you go to the beach, chances are you're going to see women topless. It's just a natural thing. Like, it's just a body. Everybody's seen a titty. You know, we sucked on one when we were younger. It's just so whatever. I remember in Italy, there's a place called Bagni that my mum used to take me to every summer. And I remember two women coming out of the changing rooms, one in what I think is a neon green bikini, basic bikini, sort of triangle on top and the bottom, and another woman in what looked like a neon pink bikini. Let me tell you, they jiggled, there was cellulite, they were both pear-shaped, you know, nothing was toned, nothing was thin. And I remember looking at them and going, I'd love to look like that. Of course, as I've gotten older, that's changed a little bit. I don't want cellulite, but if it comes, you know, it is what it is. Whether that's affected by diet culture or aesthetics or society, who knows? And I would like to be toned, but that being said, they looked happy. They looked fine. They were healthy as far as I'm aware. Even recently, I don't want to bring so much attention to it, but Ariana Grande is someone I do listen to, and she is known for being quite lean / on the slimmer side. And she came out recently to say that it really affected her. I'm paraphrasing here, okay? Don't take every single word I'm saying. But she recently came out to say that when she was at her most unhealthy is when people complimented her most on her healthiness. And I want to put it out there that no matter how you appear, and you know, there have been a lot of videos that I've seen lately, because I'm on a long-term weight loss journey, where creators will state how pretty privilege is a thing, and that the compliments and how they were treated changed as they got slimmer. I'm certain that will happen. I know it's because of our stereotype of a fat person is lazy, a fat person doesn't take care of themselves and things like that. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't genuinely think that's true from a nursing perspective and from as a person and who I am. I don't think any of that is true. And I think it's correct, actually. Most people shouldn't really talk about how people look. It's none of your business. You don't know what happens behind closed doors. This is all context for me to tell you that yesterday, after rooting around through my things, I came across a book. I already feel emotional thinking about, that I realized was my 12-year-old account of when I had shortly started, I think, living with my dad. My mum went to live in Germany for a year, as I've mentioned before, and I went to live with my dad. I weighed 88 kilos, which is absolutely not healthy for a 12-year-old. I was pretty much, was it Violet Beauregarde? No. The chunky one, the one that blows up. It is violet, like a blueberry. She blows up like a blueberry. That's what I pretty much looked at that age. And of course, that it was by no means healthy. I was wearing men's clothes. So one of my dad's goals for that year was to put me on a very restrictive diet and make me lose weight. I know he went about it in the way that he saw fit at the time. It was pretty much, I had a very regimented eating plan that included Weetabix. I hated it at the time, but I love it now. Shout out to you, Dad. Lunch consisted of a fruit and a sandwich, and dinner was, for a long time, for a few months there, I say months, over 6 months, a salad and a slice of bread. And yes, it was restrictive, but it got me to lose the weight that I did. Was it the right course of action? Who knows, because I'm still fat. So I obviously didn't pick up the right sort of eating habits or managing my emotions well enough to avoid overeating. But I did lose about 20 kilos because I remember when I left him after the 11 months that I was there and went back to move in with my mom, that I was roughly 62 to 65 kilos. But I was also lighter, eating better, managing my eating better, I guess. But that came with the fact that my dad gave me a very routine life. And I guess for a child, that's pretty much what you need. I didn't really have many worries apart from my dad's discipline and not having my mum in the country. But those were things that I could manage and that he managed quite well. I was doing well in education, etc., etc. My clothes were better, etc., etc. The important thing out of all of that is that this notebook I came across was from 12-year-old me. And the first entry is the 15th of February. I just remember that I was 12 when I went to move in with him, and I think I was 12 here, based on the year. Being overweight is always hard. The perceptions that people give you, your eating habits, which of course I'm overweight for a reason. I don't have good healthy eating habits. I'm sure most people don't, whether or not they're fat or skinny. If you're underweight, it's because you don't eat enough. If you're overweight, you're eating too much. And if your skin's bad, maybe you're not eating the right things, or you're not fueling your body in the right. There are so many things that affect diet and nutrition. And I say that as a nurse because I had seen people on both extremes be unhealthy. So it's not just about being overweight. When I talk about this, I'm talking about being overweight for me. What upset me about this so much is what ties into the negative self-talk aspect of today's episode. And that as a 12-year-old, I wrote some awful stuff. And it makes me feel so emotional because no matter how I looked, no matter what I did, I didn't deserve, no 12-year-old deserves to feel the way that 12-year-old Nkem wrote and felt. And I say that universally. No matter where you are, no matter how much you weigh, no matter how bad your eating habits are, no matter how dumb you feel, no matter how much you think you've failed, the kind of things I wrote in here and the negative self-talk and the negative self-perception I had of myself, I say to everyone, is not fucking acceptable. I tell my friends sometimes when you have moments of feeling down and having low self-esteem and anxiety, I tell them, would you speak to your friend like that? Would you speak to the baby you or the child you, teen you like that? And if your answer is no, then why do you do it to yourself now? So in the spirit of being raw and controversial, as I state in my trailer, and I aspire to be, I'm going to read to you every single page I have in here. It's not that many, don't worry. It's, I think, maybe 5 or 6 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Sorry, I underestimated there. But there's 8 pages, but it's not going to take a long time. So bear with. And I just want to extend to you, this is not the way to speak to yourself. And this is in no way how a 12-year-old should speak to themselves. Or an adult. Here we go. 15th of February, 2011. God, why is it so fucking hard to lose weight? It's like God wants to punish me with dry skin and an ugly body shape, and best of all, being fat. It's so annoying being the fattest in the class, the fattest out of all my friends. Boys tease me and it seems this misery will never end. But I have to be strong. 14 kilos down, here I come. 28th of February, 2011. Come on. Where did that 200 grams come from? It's too hard. Why? Do you know why, Nkem? Because you eat too much. You eat junk. If you keep doing this, it will fill you completely with regret. You're going to be fat and ugly, just like you are now. So lose some weight. OMG, do you know how much you've lost? You have lost 2.4 kg. I'm so proud that I'm actually shedding tears of joy. It's only because you've been, bullet points here, sleeping more, eating less, no junk food, lots of exercise. All of that could help you so much. And you know, with that fit body, those beautiful eyes and perfect skin, you'd attract more boys than Frankie does. I could not for the life of me tell you who Frankie is. So let's beat the curse. You've put on 1 kilo, man. What the fuck is wrong with you? I know you can do this. You've got to believe in yourself. Please, come on. This is getting worse. You have to stop. I know you use food to comfort you, but you cannot go any further. Be slim, be beautiful, and be hot. Just because you are in Italy, 24th of April, 2011, sorry. Just because you are in Italy, bear in mind, I was a 12-year-old in Italy on holiday. Just because you are in Italy doesn't mean you stuff yourself with food. Change yourself and change your life. You don't want to be as huge as mum, do you? Oof. She has stretch marks, a huge tummy and a chubby face. Even she doesn't want you to grow up like that, so be strong. 2nd of April 2011. Die. Why are you doing this to yourself? It doesn't have to be like this. I can't waste any more time, you fat loser. Look at what everyone calls you. Fatty. The last one, because this is as torturous for me as it is for you, I can assure you. 19th of October 2011. Excellent progress, Nkem. My gosh, you've lost 10.9 kg. Do you even understand how much weight that is? Even Dad and Eva are proud of you. But Dad still isn't, obviously. He doesn't seem to be very happy with you. Anyway, well done and keep up the good work. I then had another entry after that, which was the 30th of October 2011. I didn't write an entry, but I had the ticket. I kept all the tickets. I don't want to apologize for my tears, but I know it's uncomfortable to hear someone crying. So, yeah. I'm so sad because, you know, childhood in proportion to the span of our lives is so short. So short. And the amount of pressure, the amount of stress, the odious feelings I had towards myself as a 12-year-old are incomprehensible. And I am certain I'm not alone. And not just about weight. How many things, just think of yourself. How many things as a kid did you feel reprehensible about in yourself? Did you hate? Did you stand in a mirror? Boys and girls, because the boys, listen, they're all cocky and macho, but we know. We know everyone struggles with something. Can you imagine the kind of shitty negative self-talk you had to yourself as a 12-year-old? Does it match up to something like that? If it did, baby, we need healing. We need some healing up in here, because to be 12 and tell yourself to die, goddamn. Never in my wildest dreams would I wish that upon my sisters, Juan's brother, any of the children that I've come across, anyone I've mentored, anyone I've worked with, the kids that sit in the mental health meetings that I have, you know, research-based in the work that I do. None of the teens that I've come across when I've worked in the wards, I would wish that upon nobody, not even on my worst enemy. That's where self-harm comes from. That's where negative self-talk comes on. And I thank God that that's a lie. That's a lie. I was about to lie. I'm so sorry. I did, looking back, have thoughts of not being here anymore as a kid. Maybe once or twice. Nothing so intense as when I worked in my first big girl job and not wanting to be here anymore. But those stories of kids that you hear that have committed suicide, they're obviously so much closer than any of us can even comprehend. Or to you guys that have gotten close to it, I'm so sorry. Reading back on all of that, I understand how you can make the leap from one perilous thought to an impulse that you regret for the rest of your life? You know, how do you manage being overweight when you have to eat every day? It's not like a vice like alcohol or drugs or something, or gambling. Those are the things you can try and not look at them every day. You can try and put them out of your periphery. You could stay at home every single day and not have to see a bottle of alcohol, not have to see any drugs, not have to see poker on your phone or gambling chips or things like that. But you have to eat. You quite literally have to eat every single day. So how do you control that shit? Enlighten me, please. And yes, my problem is that food is so attached to how I think and how I feel. It's pretty much my vice. That is my vice. Of all the things in the world that I've achieved, that I've done, the one bad thing I would say, the really bad thing that I have, is that food is my vice. I want to come away from, I don't want to dive into diet culture. That's not for me. Everyone is on an independent journey. All I can say to you is that you're not alone. I can assure you that there are billions of people who feel the same way I do. I've described on here. And if you're feeling something similar, we are not alone. This is not a unique experience. Thank God it's not. Girl, then I would feel crazy for real. But I wanted to talk on the power of negative self-talk and how, at least in my conscious mind, not baby Nkem, it's played a role on how I think today, my survival mentality, my catchphrase. If you're close enough to me, you'll know that the two sayings I have are, what are you? Who am I? The baddest bee. I believe I am the baddest bee. That's what confidence level I try to give myself every day. I wake up and I think to myself, who the fuck am I? I am the baddest bee. That's why this podcast is called Dear Baddest Bee. This is a love letter to myself. And to believe that nothing is as bad as it seems. My second favorite saying of all time is, what will happen if you do the thing you dread? You'll survive. You will survive. And I say it to my sisters when they're scared of performing live on stage, like one of them did not too long ago in a band. I said, if you do fail when you forget the lyrics or you sing really bad, you sing a bad note, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? And she'll tell me, you'll survive. I think everyone's confidence should be that way. As people, we have a very limited time here. And the most beautiful thing is to risk it all always, or to do things that take you out of your comfort zone always, because the worst thing that's going to happen is that you'll still survive. You might feel a bit cringe. Sometimes in my life of content creation now, I have to have some powerful, positive self-talk, y'all. And I really have to fight the negative, because for every negative thought I have, I need to have about 10 of them to combat that. Isn't it crazy that you can post a picture, one negative comment will outdo the hundreds of beautiful ones that you got? That's the power of negative self-talk. And it's awful. It's crippling. It's not worth it. I'm pursuing content creation now, and every day I think to myself, God, my family and friends are going to think I'm so cringe, or the people that I went to school with, that I'm not so close to now, that I don't see every day, they must think I'm bare cringe. Of course, not everyone. I shout out to you, Renee P, and all the comments and the positive stuff you always leave. You too, Erin, you too, Patricia. I see you guys. But there are so many people that you think to yourself, God, they're going to think I'm cringe. What are they going to think? Who gives a shit? You'll survive. I actually will survive. If I whip out a camera in Primark and I'm walking around and people stare at me, who gives a shit? I'm going to see them once. And if I see them twice, I can assure you they're not going to think of me. But that power behind your thoughts is so important. Powerful, positive self-talk got me through college. It got me through uni. It got me through my nursing degree. It keeps me here. After being fired from my last job, I really almost went on a deep dive of, I don't think I'm good enough. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too confrontational. Maybe I just can't work with anyone. And I had a few friends who had to turn around and tell me, absolutely, cut the tapes, cut the bullshit. Who the fuck are you? The baddest bee. And they were like, granted, this is not a positive experience that you've had, but you don't need to belittle, berate, and put yourself down over instances that actually you can just learn from. You can just learn from each experience you have that makes you feel like absolute shit. I saw a video today of, oh God, please, let me not forget his name. Jim Carrey, who did The Mask and movies as a comedian. And he said, depression is your body's way of telling you that this person you are today is not for you. What a beautiful way to look at it. that your negative self-talk, your low self-esteem, your anxiety, your depression is your mind's way of telling you that whatever you're doing is not good enough. Not good enough for how much potential you have. And of course, it's so hard to fight that I can't even imagine, being at your rock bottom, being at your low. Juan was telling me this week about someone who was working in an industry of content creation who lost their job, became unfit, and put on weight. The putting on weight is not the bad thing, but went through from having such a routine and feeling good about themselves working out to no longer doing that, being inconsistent, no longer feeling good about themselves, to losing their partner, on a downward spiral, negative self-talk every day, and just didn't see a way out. So it happens. You let yourself down. But the beauty of having your mind is that as many negative thoughts that you can produce good ones too. What progression do you get out of believing that you're shit? I was reading today because in preparation for this podcast, I was like, okay, let me get some statistics on negative and positive self-talk. And negative self-talk has a place too. Some of the studies that I read were like, there's a limit to how much negative self-talk can have on you, but it can change your cognitive perspective for the good because it will give you motivation to do better, which ties in with what Jem Kerry said, essentially. Like, it's your body's way of telling you this isn't good enough. So the negative self-talk can be used to motivate you and push you in a different direction. But there's a line for that. There's only so much shitty stuff you can say about yourself before you fall into a mad spiral of not getting out of that, or not doing anything, or not feeling like doing anything. They say that depression is the power of your thoughts. I don't know how true that is, from nursing anyway. They say that they're your brain sparks, your brain chemistry being out of whack, and that you need medications to fix that. But then there's also scientific studies that say that medications don't actually help that anyway. There seem to be events that always trigger depression or feeling quite low. And that in the research, so I do mental health research. I work as a young person's collaborator, and I've worked with a foundation called McPin since I was about 19 years old. And in that, I've come across multiple projects. I've worked on multiple bids, assigning money to research projects that look into adolescent mental health. And some of the language I've come across and some of the research I've come across have always said that depression is the power of your thoughts and that you can bring yourself up from depression. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. That's just what some of the research and what some of the language in that field has said. And of course, they're the experts, so who am I to say no? That medication doesn't work. So if that's true, and there's a line to how much negative self-talk you can give yourself before it becomes ineffective, for those of us that do that often, and it's one of our toxic traits, how do you manage that? Because I do negative self-talk, but I wouldn't say it's my toxic trait. My toxic trait is isolation. Like, I'll just isolate myself even though I want to be around people. But for my loved ones, I do know a few of them whose toxic trait is bad negative thing they do to themselves is negative self-talk. And I can't imagine the kind of poison you put into your mind when you do that. If it's been shown to be better, that you get more success out of talking to yourself positively, then why would you do anything else different? And maybe it's like a muscle. Maybe negative self-talk is like a muscle. Maybe I've honed that. Because even when I'm getting ready, and I don't love how my skin is. Sometimes I get eczema on my face, on my neck, under my eyes. Sometimes when I'm not sun-kissed and I haven't come from holiday, I'm like, whoa, I look too pale. I look like the sun hasn't kissed me, and it makes me feel a bit down. Sometimes when I look at my upper chest and that it's small and maybe the shape isn't pear and a teardrop, but it's wonky and it's a bit saggy, I look at them and I tell myself some really shitty things about it, or the cellulite on the back of my legs, or my stretch marks, or my fupa. I can pretty much take myself out of that quite quickly, and I can tell myself I'm the baddest bee and this body is unique, this body is mine, ain't nobody got to get it. And actually it carries me when I need to run. I have the muscular strength to to cycle. I cycle, I have a bike. Or this body lets me deadlift and I'm not injured and it's strong and I am not without one appendage, not penis, but what do they call it? Limb. I'm not without a limb. And my body is strong and it deserves the best of me. Those are just some of the thoughts that book triggered, to be honest. That for a very long time, I have not had such talk that is that bad. I mean, the last time I had such negative self-talk would be, not such like that, because the proportion of that being 12, etc. But something, I'd say a similar occasion, is when I had my first job. And I guess Jim Carrey's words and liking what you do and feeding your soul was so important in that role because I hated it there. Looking back, I was pretty much bullied and harassed. I'm sure the person that was doing it would say that that's not true, but it was. That was bullying and harassment. And I didn't know that at the time. I was desperate. I was eager to please. After having done my nursing degree, I was so eager and desperate to leave the NHS and not work there, not be overworked, because I was pretty much miserable, that I jumped headfirst into this job that I didn't even need to interview for. They just offered it to me because they were desperate. Looking back, I should have questioned that, but I didn't. And we're here now. And being told I was desperate, being patronized often, being confronted in a really aggressive way, feeling like I couldn't do anything right all of the time because I was being patronized. I, in the midst of all the stress, failed my dissertation the first time. I was like, oh my God, you're rubbish. Spoke to myself negatively. If this is what life is, I don't want to be here. And I'm glad I'm still here. But it took maybe a year and a half, guys, for me to come out of that negative self-talk spiral and start thinking myself as a bad bee and being confident again, or feeling confident again, because I've come to think that maybe confidence isn't a trait. It's just a thing you are constantly doing. To me, confidence is doing something and knowing that at the end of it, you're going to what? Survive. And I do that often. Like, I'll just do something and be like, who gives a shit? Versus someone who doesn't and never does the thing that they're scared to do because of feeling judged or being perceived negatively, that they're then perceived as insecure and unconfident because they're not scared to do something. Did that make sense? That they don't believe they're going to survive whatever negative feelings may or may not come out of that. The job, anyway, after all those really negative feelings, took me a year and a half to recover from, where I had to say to myself, I had to combat those negative thoughts with saying to myself, how could I even think to leave Juan, my sisters, my dad, my mum, my friends? How could I think to leave them here without me? And I don't mean to say that to rate myself highly, but it's having a realistic view of the impact you have in people's lives and how much love I can give, how much they love me, how invested they are in my life and I in theirs. Like, I can imagine, because I got close enough, where the people that do take their lives think to themselves, people are better off without me. I'm telling you, they're not better off without you. They're not better off thinking or feeling, or you thinking that you're not worth being here. You are worth being here. I'm fucking worth being here. It took me a year and a half to come out of that. It took me a year and a half of confident thoughts or doing things that were out of my comfort zone, or feeling like I want to invest in me again, like dressing nicely. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see my feed has been popping, guys, because I love me. And how sad is it to hate yourself to the point where you write fucking die as a 12-year-old in a fucking notebook? What kind of shit is that? There are studies that tell you, there has been science conducted to tell you that positive self-talk is far stronger than negative. If there is any sort of positive self-talk phrase that I could teach you today, it's to wake up and tell yourself, who are you? The baddest bee. And boys, this applies, if you're listening, this applies to you too. I tell my dad all the time, who are you, daddy? And he'll tell me the baddest bee. And to tell yourself, whatever you're about to do, whatever is going to make you feel nervous. Doing this makes me feel nervous. Today is the first time, guys, that I am talking freely and I don't feel shy to say what I've been saying or pausing. And it's taken 4 episodes because each time I've come back and be like, I will survive. There's nothing I can't not say. There's nothing I can't take out if it's a bit too much, if I have to take it out and I can't share because it's things that other people have said. So tell yourself, when you're about to get nervous, what's the worst thing that could happen? What will happen if you do this thing? What will happen if I start a podcast? What will happen if I start posting consistent content to my feed? What will happen if I start moving like I'm a content creator and it doesn't work out? I will survive. You will survive. I think that's where I'm going to leave this. I've given you 1 or 2 sayings, 3 sayings maybe, that you can tell yourself when you're feeling low. And I've given you some raw, in-depth, quite deep and emotional shit into my 12-year-old brain that I hope you enjoyed. But most of all, I know this has become a little bit of a touch upon suicide ideation, and it can be quite deep and unpleasant to talk about. But with the knowledge that I have had those thoughts, and I get it, and I'm here still, and I want to be here, no matter the good or the bad. If you've ever had those sorts of thoughts, I urge you to seek help, to know that you are not alone, and that I promise you are worth being here. Oh, another saying, let me teach you, that this is not the end, or that is not the end, but nothing is forever. The feelings that you have are not forever. Those feelings that I had in here, those awful feelings, they weren't forever. They're gone now. The feelings that I had working in my first big girl job, they're not there anymore. They're gone now. It will pass. I hope you enjoyed the episode with me on the Dear Baddest Bee podcast. I am your host, Nkem Nayeshe. I now have a social media page on IG. Maybe I'll have one on TikTok by the time this comes out, but on IG at least, it's Dear Baddest Bee podcast, at Dear Baddest Bee podcast. And my email is contact@dbbpodcast.com. That's contact@dbbpodcast.com. I would love to hear from you if you're listening. Seriously, whatever it is. If it's a confession, I love a good confession. I love gist. I love gossip. Please feel free to send it in because I will love it. It won't go anywhere unless you want me to share it. Not with your name, obviously. But if you want to share confessions, if you want to ask me something, if you want me to talk about a specific topic, or you want me to get more in depth with the topics I've spoken about, or a dilemma and you want some advice, let me be your Mama Kemsey. Let me be your Auntie Kemsey. And I'll give you my honest and transparent thoughts on that. Let's stay consistent. I love this. And I hope you have a fabulous week after you've heard this. And kisses. Mwah. I will see you in the next one.